In Vapi, Gujarat, an industrial zone housing hundreds of chemical and textile units, the machinery is going quiet. Factories here are running at half capacity, order books are frozen, and cash flows are blocked. Down on the ground, the squeeze is so severe that migrant workers are struggling to procure the LPG cylinders they need for basic cooking. This graph tracks the cost of raw materials for plastics and textiles. Within a single quarter, prices for basic chemical inputs surged by 60 to 70%. These prices reflect a severe physical shortage. India is currently seeing a monthly shortfall of 2.5 lakh metric tons of PGA and 1.5 lakh metric tons of MEG, the building blocks for synthetic fibers and resins. Vapi's production lines are stalling because the petrochemical inputs they need to function are currently trapped on the other side of a conflict zone. The conflict in West Asia has effectively blocked the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow waterway is the primary petrochemical pipeline to India's west coast, and with tankers unable to pass safely, the supply chain is severed. The economic pain is being prolonged by a diplomatic split. Saudi Arabia and the UAE are facing strikes on their own refineries and are pushing for military action, while Oman and Qatar are advocating for mediation. The shipping blockade has now triggered a financial panic. As manufacturing slows, corporate valuations across India are dropping toward 52-week lows, fueled by a wave of market sell-offs. The liquidity squeeze became so tight that India's market regulator, SEBI, had to intervene. They granted a one-time relaxation, extending IPO clearance validities to late 2026 to help struggling companies raise capital. A regional war is hitting the Indian economy from two directions, slowing the production line in Gujarat and stalling growth on the stock exchange. This visualization shows the depth of India's energy dependency. The country processes 5 million barrels of crude every day, but relies on imports for 88% of its needs. Historically, 40% of those imports flow through the now blocked West Asian routes. To keep the country running, India had to execute a rapid pivot toward new suppliers. That pivot led to South America. Following the easing of U.S. sanctions, India is taking delivery of up to 12 million barrels of Venezuelan crude this month, a 6-year high for these imports. Venezuelan crude provides a specific technical advantage. It yields high volumes of middle distillates like diesel and jet fuel, which are in short supply during this crisis. While Venezuelan oil helps avert an energy collapse, it is a temporary fix for a persistent structural vulnerability in how India sources its energy. For decades, Indian strategic thought followed the Ludhiana school, which focused almost entirely on continental defense and guarding the land-based borders to the north and west. The industrial paralysis in Vapi suggests the Ludhiana doctrine is no longer enough. India's primary economic vulnerabilities are increasingly maritime. This is reviving the Bombay School of Strategy, a maritime-first approach that prioritizes securing sea lanes and projecting influence across the Arabian Sea. The interests at stake are significant. Beyond oil, 9 million Indian expats live on the Gulf, sending $50 billion in remittances back home every year. These are vital economic pillars located entirely outside of India's land borders. To protect these citizens and prevent future industrial shutdowns, India must combine naval presence with diplomatic muscle across the Gulf. In a globalized economy, there is no such thing as a distant war. To ensure a conflict in the Gulf never stops an Indian factory again, India must establish a permanent strategic presence in these shipping lanes.